Alpha 323 is just around the corner, and that means it's time for Patch Dispatch 323, where we run down all the new features and content included in what could be Star Citizen's biggest patch yet. So let's just jump right into things. And we'll start with life in the first person. And in 323, life begins with a newly expanded and revamped character customizer, letting you create more dynamic and representative avatars than ever before. A new beginning that will continue to evolve with additional features and options in subsequent patches. Now let's discuss all the major improvements that directly affect your character, starting with the new Mobiglass. Now, unlike Eobard Thawne, we've finally killed the Flash, as the new Mobiglass finally makes its in-universe debut with a revamped layout and new features like the Health and Contract Manager apps to help you stay alive and find work respectively. It also includes the long-awaited and hotly anticipated new Maps app, combining the new star map and interior map experiences into one unified interface, with an entire host of new functionalities designed to help you find your way through landing zones, space stations, and the entire verse as a whole. Oh, and that work also touches the new lens and visor updates with a great new mini-map that appears now in the upper left corner. Your days of not finding your way around are soon behind you. Unless you're a specific person who won't be named. You know who you are. Of course, when you're traveling through the verse, Alpha 323 has a whole new array of improvements to how you'll interact with the world around you, starting with a revamped player interaction system that's more nimble and customizable than ever before. Default item actions that let you keep your customizations exactly how you want them. A new shopping interface that streamlines the experience so you can get what you want and go. And new looting screens to improve your alternate and more violent shopping experience. And speaking of which, there's lots of new improvements to the way you bring first-person murder-death-kill to your fellow citizens in the verse, including scope magnification updates, ammo repooling and backpack reloading, ADS tuning, and the new dynamic crosshair on specialized helmets so you can fire straight from the hip in-game, and not just from the comfort of your YouTube comments. And your first-person life doesn't end there, because Alpha 323 allows you to take the fight to zero-G with the newly revamped EVA mechanics, changing the way you traverse the verse outside your spacecraft and vehicle. And speaking of your spacecraft or vehicles, the Alpha 323 season also includes new ways to house, load, and launch your ships with the new personal persistent hangars coming to ArcCorp, Hurston, Microtech, and Orizen in a 323X patch this quarter, which also includes item banks to grab your stuff, vehicle platforms to raise your ships, and freight elevators to load them before takeoff. Of course, once you take off, you'll find a new way to fly with master modes and a new way to fight with precision targeting and weapon mount and gimbal changes, meaning space combat's got its next evolution in Alpha 323.
Weapon systems overheating.
But what if flying in the PU isn't enough? Or you simply want a safe place to practice the changes? Well, there's a whole host of new maps and experimental modes in Arena Commander 323 that we covered here in detail just last week. Then back in the persistent universe and down planet side, you'll find the new distribution centers with a variety of mission and gameplay opportunities for all manner of playstyles, and the added dangers of the American Copian, Star Citizen's first fauna being added to Alpha 323. And how are the Merrics dangerous? Just wait until they add poop mechanics. Then there's also exciting new technological improvements like our initial implementation of Vulkan, new DLSS, FSR, TSR upscaling, and the new water rendering and simulation tech that will make Star Citizen look even better than ever before. And then under the hood, with the new replication layer split in 323, players no longer connect directly to the game servers and instead to the hybrid service, which hosts the replication layer, which then itself maintains the state of the game. This now means that the loss of a server can be recovered from without the players being disconnected from the game or losing their progress, and sets the stage for multiple game servers sharing a single hybrid replication layer in the server mesh coming online with Alpha 4.0. So all in all, there's more things in Alpha 323 than you can shake a stick at, but there's actually even more, as this branch not only includes all the hangar and cargo improvements we discussed earlier, it also contains the next iteration of Invictus Launch Week, which is actually 2 weeks because we're all super extra here. And we'll introduce a handful of new ships and vehicles folks have been waiting for, as well as one straight-to-flyable that's available with 323 launch. So let's learn more from John, Ben, and Alberto.
The MIRAI Pulse is MIRAI's entry into the ground gravlev bike category.
Is a new racing vehicle from MIRAI. It kind of builds on some of their kind of core values as a brand of MISC, focusing more on performance. It takes a lot of inspiration, should we say, from the Razor, and really kind of shrinks that kind of thrill speed down.
So the role of gravlev vehicles in the game, and especially hover bikes, it allows you to, you've got a mission in mind, perhaps you don't want to risk bringing your ship or larger vehicle right up to it. It allows you to park some distance away, out of radar range, out of line of sight, and then infiltrate stealthily, speedily towards the target location. And of course, as features like weather comes online and more diverse and hazardous biomes such as heavily dense forests, gravlev vehicles, bikes will become more useful as ways to get closer to your target without damaging ships. The Pulse is our smallest ground vehicle. It was an intentional design choice to make something as small and compact and as fast as possible, and MIRAI as a brand sort of fits that performance ideology.
It needs to be small. It needs to be small, fast, agile, and really that just kind of gives us a much greater opportunity of how the players can really experience that sense of speed on one of our ground vehicles.
So the Pulse comes in 2 flavors. We've got the base version, which comes equipped with a custom laser Gatling on the front. And then you have the LX, which is the dedicated racing version. It loses that front weapon, replaces it with a big intake, you get extra thrusters, so out of all the gravlev bikes, it is one of the most agile there. The reason it's so small and compact is we wanted it to have the most compatibility with all of our other vehicles in game, so by being compact allows you to pretty much stuff it into every single other vehicle in existence in the game.
Size-wise, I think it's just over 2.5 meters in length, so it is tiny. To put that into some perspective, it's a tiny bit longer than 2 SCU of cargo, so it is very small.
I'm sure there will be 1 or 2 vehicles out there where it doesn't fit in, maybe such as the MPUV, but across the board it's designed to get in a lot of other vehicles. My favourite thing about the Pulse series is just the way we've integrated all the components together into that incredibly tight chassis.
We tried to kind of fuse the idea of a sports bike, but almost, I think they're called like naked bikes. So we wanted it to feel still quite aggressive and quite kind of chunky, almost like a bobber. But we kind of really wanted that sleekness that MIRAI and the brand as a whole kind of is known for. One of the, I guess, biggest kind of challenges that our like Alberto and the concept team really had to work on, which then turned our production artists and kind of gave them a few things to scratch their head against, is really fitting all of the ship items and the components into a vehicle of this size.
As we never did anything so small, new problems come along. I decided to take the same approach of a motorbike. We tried to insert most of the components in what will be the fuel tank. And with this approach, we kept the same shape, the same main shape of a motorbike. So we have very fluid and soft shapes, palindromal, which means that you can flip it and it looks kind of the same. And then we added the front part just to connect the semiotic of the racing vehicles to this one. We were really tight to the size because it can fit in a container, and that created a huge challenge with how the components move when you actually have to expose them. So that dictated actually the shape we ended up with, and I'm really happy with the final result because you couldn't say probably that inside such a small vehicle there are so many components.
Compared to our other Gravlev ground vehicles, the Pulse it trades durability for speed and agility, so compared to, say, like the Dragonfly and the Hoverquad, which are relatively tanky, not as good there.
The Nox is more tense and definitely bigger. MIRAI tries to simplify things a bit, less is more. We try to have a different approach compared to most of racing vehicles and communicate speed through mass and not through aerodynamics, although we keep aerodynamics in consideration for this kind of stuff.
In terms of the Nox and the X1, it is right up there in speed and agility. So they all trade different speed attributes in terms of straight line speed, cornering speed, rotational velocities. And the bespoke weapon on the front of the base model is our first laser Gatling in the game, so we're looking forward to see how that performs. So that's the Pulse coming online in 3.23, 2 variants of it. Looking forward to seeing all the different scenarios you're going to get it into.
Did I say it's small? It's really, really small. And goes really, really fast.
Okay, that's good.
See the memes coming?
So what did we learn this week? Well, hopefully we were reminded of all the great work the combined Star Citizen and Squadron 42 teams have been working on that make their way to the persistent universe in Alpha 3.23. That, like any and every other feature in Star Citizen, the work doesn't stop here and will continue to iterate and evolve in subsequent releases. And that the MIRAI Pulse is this teeny tiny hoverbike that can fit into all sorts of places and may just be John Griffith's and James Kay's worst nightmares when players try to squeeze them deep down into the distribution centers. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for letting us share the process of game development with you, and we'll see you all here next week.